All right, folks, we are live. Welcome to the webinar featuring myself, Steve, and Dan. We're going to be talking about KubeCon EU, which happened just last week in Amsterdam. But first, before we get into that, we're just going to go through a few housekeeping items here. So if you're new to Octopus or you haven't heard of us, we are a company that ships a deployment tool. You might want to check us out at octopus.com. And you can check out some of our other webinars that we have at octopus.com/webinars. Today, we are hosting the KubeCon EU 2026 recap party. So myself, Dan, and Steve are going to be talking about this. Yes, Dan is very excited. He was dancing to the music before. But this is a live event where we're going to be talking about what we saw, what we experienced at KubeCon in Amsterdam. If you have a question, feel free to submit it to the comment wherever you're joining us from. We are live streaming across Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch. We'll do it on Kick if we have to. We don't care. Instagram, wherever the kids are. We'll do it anywhere. But if you want to find out more about our webinars coming up, visit our webinars page at octopus.com/webinars. So with that, let's go ahead and introduce our co-hosts here today. I've got Steve, I got Dan. Who are you guys? Let the folks know.
Steve, you first.
I was doing that kind of very British thing where I just like get in the queue and wait my turn.
Yeah, line up. That's right.
I'm Steve. I work in the DevRel team here at Octopus, and I'm involved in a lot of the research that we do, including things like the State of GitOps report.
Very modest, Steve,
Yes.
leading our developer relations group. My name is Dan Garfield. I do our Kubernetes initiative strategy, our open source. I'm an Argo maintainer. I work on GitOps, all that kind of fun stuff. And I helped organize ArgoCon just last week in Amsterdam, making that happen. So got a chance to meet with a lot of people in the EU, which was a lot of fun. There's always a really good energy at the KubeCon EUs. And this one, I think, is one of the best ones that I've ever been to.
Awesome stuff. Yeah. It was the largest KubeCon ever. I think there was like over 13,000 attendees. It was up 10% from last year. So that's over 100 countries, 900 sessions. Dan, I know you saw a lot of this at ArgoCon. I wanted to start off by asking you both, what was the vibe in Amsterdam this year? Did it feel like the biggest one?
I tell you what, the venue was big enough that it didn't feel crushed. Like that number of people did fit there, but you could tell it was busy. There was like so much going on. So I think it was like, that was one of the things that made it so good is there were 13,500 people, but you could still go and get food and drink when you needed it. And there were still seats that you could sit down on. So like you didn't get that fatigue you sometimes get at a conference where you're like, I've been stood up for like 4 days. So yeah, it was really well organized. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I one of the cool things about it, first of all, they gave us the largest space we've ever had for ArgoCon. And ArgoCon is always the largest colo event. So we had this giant auditorium, which was really cool to see that just packed full of people. Man, they got a lot of shots of me on here. I didn't realize. The other cool thing about the venue is that it had this natural light on the show floor. So almost always you don't get light. You're like in, windowless rooms wherever you go. And so that was really nice to have that extra level of light, natural light coming in so we'd have conversations. But I would say the vibe, to answer your question, the vibe was like excitement, bordering on
Hysteria.
fear of getting left behind. It's like there's so much happening. It's happening so quickly. And all of us, we actually had somebody gave everybody's given different talks and stuff. Kostas gave a talk, and it was really good to talk about the state of secrets management and how to do it with GitOps and Argo and stuff. And he got a bunch of feedback on it and people were like, thanks for giving a talk that wasn't all about AI. We loved it. and it's like, we're all kind of burned out on AI, but we also are like super stoked about AI and trying to manage it. Oh, and yeah, here's Kostas doing a book signing for Argo the Right Way, not Argo the Wrong Way.
Yes.
Usually he talks about how not to do stuff the wrong way. Here he was talking about how to do it the right way, which was cool.
It was kind of due. I mean, Kostas writes these blog posts. If you guys don't know who Kostas is, he's one of our advocates here at Octopus and writes a lot about Argo. And every blog post he ever writes is like page down, page down, page down, page down. It just keeps going. I'm like, dude, you got to write a book. Like, what's going on here? So this was actually announced. It's up on Amazon, actually. You can check it out there. Yeah, I've got the link here. So you can grab the paperback version for $11 Australian or 1 cent American. So go ahead and check that out if you're so inclined. Argo CD the right way.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I actually joined the queue at the end, pretending to be like, oh, I'm just managing the queue. I'm helping out with like crowd control. But I timed it so that I could be there and get my own signed copy as well. So I kind of cheated the system a little bit.
Nice.
I'm going to provide some references for folks here. For those folks who aren't aware, all the sessions were recorded. So you can find those up on the CNCF YouTube channel, which is /@CNCF. There's a section there for KubeCon EU, etc. All the events are listed there, etc. And you can check those out at your disposal. They're wide ranging, and we co-hosted and hosted obviously a bunch of events and sessions, etc. Dan, how was ArgoCon? This was something that obviously that you care a lot about. This was something that we obviously sponsored and hosted. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so usually with ArgoCon we do 2 tracks. This was no exception. I think we could do a 3rd track, honestly, at this point, because there is so much content to get through. And there was a little bit of, just from a logistics standpoint, shuffling that we did where when we planned out which talks were going to be in which rooms, we had overlooked that they were very different sized rooms. And so we ended up putting some of the most popular talks in a room that could only hold about 200 people in it. And there were another 200 people standing at the door trying to get in, and fire marshals wouldn't let them in. So we did this quick logistics run around where we went through all the talks and reassigned some and switched rooms and stuff for the afternoon. So that we got we got people were able to fit into the sessions they wanted to go to. Hopefully we didn't burn too many people out in the morning, but this was a really good, well-attended ArgoCon. We had peak about over 700, between 700 and 800 people attending. And our average for track 1, which is the bigger room, was about 438, 450, that area. And that's about where we want to see it. I'm kind of curious, over the last couple of years, you always look to see, are people going to be jumping over to platform, con, or maybe there's some AI stuff going on that they're going to be more engaged with. And the audience continues to grow and is pretty consistent in that. When I asked the audience to raise their hand if this was their first ArgoCon, and it was about 80% of the audience. And that is true every single year, because KubeCon, ArgoCon, it moves around, it changes cities, you get kind of local, you get like a different mix of people every time. Not everybody, we're different, right? Because we go to or at least I go to every single one. I've been to every KubeCon except for the very, very first one, where I was ironically like 2 blocks away sitting in my desk. But yeah, like most people don't go to every ArgoCon, KubeCon, right? They go to the one that's closest in their region. They're new. And it's one of the really cool things that we did just broadly in KubeCon is we did a contributors session. It was on day 2 of KubeCon. And basically we had like 8 Argo maintainers in the room, and a whole bunch of practitioners came in. And it was very unstructured. It was like, hey, share what you're doing, share your use cases. And people started talking about how they're deploying Argo CD, what's working well for them. And in a way that people don't do when they're presenting a talk. Most of these people wouldn't get permission to present a talk. But when they're in a room of just practitioners and they're sharing and swapping, that was really, really cool because of the things that they shared. And that was the true hallway track experience. So yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. And Steve, you did a presentation. Actually, this is Steve's blog post. You can check out. It's up on his blog, The Best of KubeCon Europe 2026. And you did a session here for KubeCon as well.
Yeah, I just realized that sounds really like egotistical, putting my own talk in the Best of KubeCon. But yeah, like I enjoyed it.
Steve, it was a keynote, buddy. Come on.
I really enjoyed though getting in that space and talking to the folks there. The great thing about Argo is that people love Argo. They love using it, which is totally different to the experience people have with lots of other tools that are out there. So you've got effectively a room full of absolute super fans of Argo. So, you know, it's like, it's a completely different experience. There's an excitement to it. It's not one of these cases where everyone's sat there going, I have to listen to this for work. They're like, they kind of want to be there. So it is a special vibe. And yeah, I kind of got to go through some of the data. We did a completely exclusive cut of the data from the State of GitOps report where we just looked at Argo in particular against everything else. And we got to kind of like celebrate where Argo outperformed the competition. And then there was one little area where it was the same as everyone else, but on most of the cases, Argo seems to be a winner.
So just briefly tell folks about the State of GitOps report. This is up at /publications, octopus.com.
Yeah, so we went out and we surveyed over 600 people about how they're actually implementing GitOps. What we in particular wanted to find out was, as Dan knows, there's a set of principles called the Open GitOps principles, which a bunch of smart folks sat down and decided this is probably how GitOps should work. We decided to test that using statistics and Python. So it was like good fun. And what we found was it kind of confirmed the Open GitOps principles are correct, but it also confirmed that you have to kind of do the full set in order to get the benefits of GitOps. If you miss something out, it doesn't gel and it doesn't actually work. So that report is super interesting. We also interviewed a bunch of experts as well to get their insights on what the data was telling us. And it's kind of the milestone marker for GitOps. It kind of, if you want to know how you should be doing it, that report has the answers.
Fantastic. You guys mentioned obviously AI being a big thing at KubeCon. Was it, you know, what aspects of AI are you guys seeing in terms of what's happening in the world these days? There was a lot of noise made around NVIDIA with their DRA driver. There was things like the LLMD, AI runway, all these announcements from Microsoft and Google and NVIDIA, etc. Did that get a lot of play? Did that get a lot of like attention, or was it just like yeah sort of thing at KubeCon?
Oh man, there's so much. It's so cool. Okay, so first of all, one of the things that blew my mind is to understand the state of security going around with agents and in not only in Kubernetes but across the board, because in the middle of KubeCon, we've got the Trivy hack going on, right? Where there's this whole supply chain attack going on that was, as far as we can tell, powered by an OpenClaw instance directed by users to go crazy and find hacks. And in the middle of KubeCon, I was like calling emergency, sessions with the other Argo maintainers and be like, hey, we need to go double check all of our CI pipelines, make sure that all of our packages are safe. So this was all kind of in the backdrop. And in the middle of all that, I'm talking with some folks about how agents behave in containers. And it turns out that all of our security models are designed around keeping stuff from getting in. But none of them are designed with the idea that you stuck a brain inside of the system and then let it run wild. We haven't built that. And so there's these really cool, this is crazy things going on where people are putting like Claude inside of containers, and they're regularly doing container breakouts. And I'll throw a link to one of the stories about it. And and I guess I posted from the Octopus deploy, so hopefully that's okay.
It's okay.
But this has prompted a whole new model for how we do security on containers and across the board. And one of the first work outputs of this is that there's a Kubernetes SIG that has put together the K8s Agent Sandbox. And this is not only meant to solve security issues, but it's also meant to solve storage issues, because I want to be able to spin up hundreds of agents, thousands of agents potentially, and they need to have some kind of storage mechanism that is persistent. But setting up a PVC for all of these would be very tedious. So it has a built-in storage mechanism. It's essentially a CRD that allows you to deploy these agents into a sandbox that has some additional security controls. It's probably not all the way there in terms of security. For that, I'm looking at vClusters, very interesting. They've got C group level segmentation happening in the kernel that they can do, and that's really cool. And you can also take advantage of shared GPUs, but that's not in the open source stuff right now, unfortunately. You've got clear case containers. There's a bunch of approaches to this, but this is a whole frontier that hasn't really been cracked yet. And to realize that, gosh, it's here. It's like waking up and finding out that, oh, like, hey, by the way, we got quantum computers running and all your cryptography could be broken any moment. That's what it feels like to me. Because sticking agents inside of containers or VMs or anything, they like to break out. They like to, if you give them a challenge, they're very creative and they'll find great ways to bypass any stumbling blocks you stick in front of them. So that was sorry for the whole rant, but that was a really interesting part of the conference for me. And that was all hallway track discussion with people trading stories and stuff.
Was there anything on
it's
the
like
AI,
the crocodile jaws, right? Is that they can close their jaws really well, but if you hold them shut, they haven't got the muscles to open them. Yeah. That's kind of the problem with the containers, right? It's like it's quite hard to get into a container, but from the inside, it's kind of easy to break out.
Did you guys, like, during the keynote, obviously there was some mention around NVIDIA's big open source play. Was this something that you guys were gravitating to, or were folks talking about this?
I actually, to be honest, I didn't even get over to the NVIDIA booth. There was so much going on in the Octopus booth, so I didn't see what they did. What was the news from NVIDIA?
So they announced their DRA driver, basically dynamic resource allocation driver for GPUs.
Right.
So this is basically their ability to control how GPUs are shared and allocated across clusters. And this was a huge open source play on their part. Microsoft talked about it, Google talked about it, etc. They launched Groove, which is an open source API for GPU orchestration. Does this resonate with folks, do you think? Does it come up a lot as something to talk about, or was it just like yeah, okay, thanks NVIDIA?
It's definitely a big deal, and I think that they had like a multi-node NVLink component that was part of that, which obviously I haven't tested yet, but this is like the headline here is, how do you run all these AI workloads? And in the past with Kubernetes, you've been limited to taking advantage of a GPU essentially from a single pod. That's terrible, right? I need to be able to have multiple pods interacting. That's why some of the stuff that Crossplane was doing is so interesting, because they could enable GPU sharing. To be able to do that natively is much better. And obviously I haven't tested it, but to be able to do that, and that means that it's much more likely that Kubernetes becomes the platform of choice for running all those kinds of AI workloads, especially if you can do cross-node like NVLink. Very curious to see how people set up that different networking, right? Like I've built in my network, I've got a 10 gigabit backplane for my Kubernetes nodes, which is, I mean, let's be honest, it's maybe a little bit overkill for some Core i5 CPUs that are 10 years old.
There's a time and place for everything. It's called Unity Networks, and we unify, and we all buy that gear, and we all wonder what I'm going to use my those 10 ports for. So it's a good example.
In theory, I would think that something like this would enable you to run trillion parameter models while distributing the load and potentially dynamically moving resources. So that's pretty cool. Or being able to run lots of smaller models that take advantage maybe inside the box and stuff. For most people who aren't self-hosting their models, maybe it doesn't feel as important, but a lot of companies are doing this, and the people that are building those platforms, those next-gen platforms, Kubernetes is the ideal fit, and this is one of the key missing pieces to making that happen.
And in terms of swag, I think they are giving $4 million worth of GPU access to the CNCF to help open source work out what to do with all of this stuff. So
yeah, if you're a maintainer on an open source project in the CNCF, you can apply and they will give you free GPU resources, and they'll do the same thing with Cloud Code too. You get free with that. So good excuse to go and start contributing to these projects and maybe become a maintainer because you can take advantage of it.
That's awesome. I wasn't aware of that. That's cool. I've just checked a few of the links up here. These were the announcement posts from the vendors that were at KubeCon. So we've got NVIDIA at KubeCon 2026 post. We've got Microsoft's what's new with Microsoft and open source, and Kubernetes at KubeCon Europe. So they'd mentioned things like they mentioned the DRA, they mentioned workload aware scheduling, and they also made DRA net as well. And then AI Runway, which is their open source project that introduces a common Kubernetes API for inference workloads. So lots of stuff happening there along with other things as well. So in terms of other vendors, was there anyone else that caught your attention at the event?
I had a really great chat with the folks at Syntasso because I had someone come to chat to me and they were saying, how does Octopus relate to Kratix? And I was like, well, I'm aware of Kratix and I've kind of spoken to people from Syntasso, but I didn't really have a good answer. So I went and found their booth and had a really long chat. And they were kind of telling me how they're like a vending machine. That the platform team can put in the products into the vending machine. And then app teams can effectively go and self-serve from that vending machine. So if you need a version control system or a observability system, all of the pre-approved options are there for you to just kind of vend for yourself, which is really cool. So yeah, I had a really good conversation with them about that. And that was like one of those things where I'm like, I totally get it now.
Nice. Dan, was there any, aside from managing and all the folks from ArgoCon, did you get a chance to visit any other booths and have a chat with anyone?
I almost didn't. I talked for a minute. Who was next to us, Steve, with the red jumpsuits?
Dash Zero.
Dash Zero. I chatted with them for a bit because they had such cool uniforms. They sponsor an F1 team and they all had F1 uniforms on, and nice. They're doing some interesting stuff with
observability.
Yeah, observability. And so chatted with them a little bit, but really we were so busy at the Octopus booth and then the Argo booth that I normally do get a chance to go walk around at some point and go talk to a few different folks. Solo.io is doing a lot of interesting stuff with trying to build like the MCP server gateway inside of Kubernetes. But most of my really interesting conversations just took place at those booths or maybe outside of a session or whatever. So it wasn't really about the sponsorships and the keynotes. I almost always find out about them a little bit later.
Nice. Was there anything else that was interesting, newsworthy wise, that was mentioned as part of KubeCon? There were so many announcements, obviously, that were talked about. Was there anything that grabbed your attention? Was there anything that you'd highlighted in your best of KubeCon post there, Steve?
So the thing is, like, everyone saves up their announcements for KubeCon, right? So you kind of like KubeCon starts and suddenly everyone drops everything. It's like, here's a new book and here's all these new releases that we've got, and you kind of get bombarded with them all. I kind of feel that there might be some strategic advantage to someone dropping an announcement this week, the week after KubeCon, because it is quiet this week.
Yes, it is.
So in terms of those, that's like super hard. In terms of other interesting sponsors, one of the analysts that was there tipped me off to Akamas, which is like a really cool FinOps tool. So it sits over your Kubernetes and it can look at resource use at different levels, like right down to the pod or right up to clusters, or even break outside of that and help you make sure that you're shifting resource to the things that need it. And as part of that, it's like trying to reduce your overall spend by not allocating resource that isn't needed. That was super interesting. And of course, Cloudsmith, who were the other side of us to Dash Zero, that they were super interesting. Loads of people were kind of finding out more about that because of this whole supply chain security issue.
Yes.
Like Cloudsmith, it was probably like the best week ever for them because it was top of everyone's mind, the security problem. So yeah, lots of people were super interested in that.
I did walk by the Aqua booth and I was just like, oh buddy, I'm so sorry. It's such a rough month for y'all dealing with this. And you know what comes down to a simple issue. And I actually really kind of blame GitHub for the whole thing, because they have this feature that enables people to open up pull requests in the context of the parent repository. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's real easy to open yourself up to it. It's a really scary attack that should be really obvious. And GitHub should do honestly a lot more to prevent this kind of thing. But hey, they can't even keep the service running above 90% uptime. Did you see the most 9s they've had in the last 2 years just happened because they dropped to 89.9. So they're back to 2 9s because they're below 90% now, which is
crazy. You
can
can have as many 9s as you want, but we're gonna not necessarily in the position you'd want them.
Anyway, John doesn't want me bashing on GitHub, and I feel bad
too. That's not true. I love it. It's hilarious.
I don't know if you saw, I posted for this thing, and I said, hey, is GitHub down? Are your Claude tokens all out for the day? Come hang out in our webinar. It's happening to all of us. The other news that I was looking at, Kyverno graduated. So for people that aren't familiar with the Kyverno project, this is one that's going to be even more important in the AI world, but it's definitely important now. Kyverno is a policy engine, security engine that runs in Kubernetes, and it allows you to create policies, ingress policies and things like that, where you can do things like, hey, I want to make sure this container is signed before it runs. And
is this in Rego as well?
No, Kyverno is OPA gateway is written in Rego.
Yes.
Kyverno's is not written in Rego, and I actually find it a lot easier to work with because of that. What is it written in? I can't even remember off the top of my head, but it is a graduated project now.
Looks
so
like
that's
YAML.
pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah, is it just YAML? I thought there was. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember.
YAML.
Honestly.
When in doubt, make it YAML. You know?
Yeah, when in doubt, make it YAML. Yeah, definitely more accessible than Rego. I think Rego is very powerful, but very few people have any experience with it. And it does say something that, like, I couldn't even remember how the policies are written in Kyverno, because when I last had hands on it, I was actually just editing YAML, and I forgot that was like
just break out your ruler. That's all you need. You know, just line it up on the screen, you'll be fine. So
yeah, so that was
these are the validations. They've got expressions in here, so it's kind of sort of massaging YAML here to provide these sort of Boolean expressions, I guess. So these are evaluated, I would imagine, for policy enforcement.
And that ends up being actually a big deal in the AI landscape, and this is coming up as in inside of Octopus, where we're seeing from people that the parts of our platform that end up being the most important for AI, and, you know, we shipped like an MCP, like whatever, 2 years ago, year and a half ago. It turns out that the most important part of the platform for enabling agents to run, agentic workloads to run, is the policy engine. And we have this whole platform hub policy engine that is really powerful. And it turns out that's actually the most valuable part for enabling these things. And so we're seeing people do stuff like running Claude with the MCP server embedded in a runbook to help do troubleshooting or automated remediation. That's super cool. And it's the kind of thing that you can only do because you also have the policy engine enforced. This isn't an ad, folks. I'm just talking. Okay.
Sure it is. Come on. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?
But I actually think this is a whole frontier, and I'm working on a blog post right now about this, for Octopus that I think is super exciting. And so policy engines, which is why I thought about it, because we were talking about Kyverno.
Yep.
Security policy engines and security posture, those policy enforcement components end up being just about the most important thing for helping people adopt those agentic workloads. You just have to have it. If you don't, you end up in an Amazon outage 3 weeks ago, right? Where, hey, the AI went to town trying to get stuff done, but got a little too big for its britches. And people, we had this question actually at ArgoCon. Somebody said, is GitOps still viable in an agent world? Like, do we still need GitOps if you have agents running around and doing things for you? And it was like, yeah, because you still need the auditing. You always needed that. You still need the ability to roll back, to pick out where the change happened, to track that stuff. There's some of the kind of headier AI Kool-Aid. I saw somebody like what it was a few weeks ago where they were saying, hey, why don't we just have the AI agent make the binary that we ship? And you're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? We're just gonna abandon the principle of like composable builds that produce the same artifact every time? Like, there's a reason that those things are in place, and it turns out it's really, really important that we do that. Now, by all means, use AI to optimize your build process, optimize your Docker file, use AI to build software, do all of that stuff. But the idea that you're going to have AI produce on-demand binaries that are, unpredictable and you don't know what's in them, there's just no reason for it. Okay, I don't want to rant too far, so guys, you got to interrupt me here. And Steve, you're far too polite to interrupt me if I keep talking. But this was something that came up. This is another kind of part of news from the conference. All right, we are seeing this huge influx of people opening up pull requests on open source projects because they vibe coded a change that they don't necessarily fully understand actually breaks other things in the project. And there are typically a lot of work for maintainers to review, because it's like, oh my gosh, this is like an 8,000 line pull request that somebody opened up and it breaks 20 other things. This is nuts. And so we're seeing and we can talk more about how we're tackling that like problem from a community standpoint, because it was a huge topic at the conference across the Argo community and others. Yeah, Intuit was talking about this as well. And someone was saying like, oh, like what if I use an AI agent to run on every pull request and parse all these things and do all this parsing of the pull requests and make sure they do this. And you go back and you say, you should probably use AI to help you write some kind of parser or some kind of linter that runs every time, but you don't have to use AI to review. You see what I'm saying? Use AI to help you build the tools to increase the stack. Don't just shove AI at the top of the stack, because burning a bunch of tokens to categorize a pull request as a bug or a feature, folks, this is not heady logic that you need to build. This is basic parsing stuff that you could use a tool to help you build, but you don't need to burn AI tokens 4,000 times every time somebody opens a pull request.
Hey, those tools won't gen themselves. You got to use those tokens one way or another, right? Sorry,
look,
Steve,
I know we're trying to help VCs.
Yeah, like this thing about using AI instead of using it to create a thing, like a deterministic thing. It feels a little bit like, imagine when you get in your car, you turn the key and it uses your battery to turn the engine round to get it started, right? And then the fuel keeps the engine running. It would be like driving by just leaving the key round and using the battery,
just the starter motor,
make your car go along. It's like the most expensive way of running your car.
What if your whole car was just the starter motor? Like, all right.
Be very loud.
I guess you could do that. It'd be pretty loud. Yeah. Going to use a lot of energy. It's not going to be very efficient.
Yeah. This metaphor will date very quickly because obviously electric cars run on battery the whole time, and I now regret the whole metaphor. But on the GitOps question, the interesting thing is it kind of gives me Charles Babbage vibes, where people are like, well, when we were like doing like 10 changes a week, and we wanted them to be audited, we wanted to make sure things were being reconciled continuously to keep them in the desired state. But now that we're going to do 100 a week, we don't want to do any of that. Like that's a weird thing for me. It's like, surely if something goes wrong, it's even more important that you can just open up the history and see what changed and go, oh yeah, I can see what's happened. Replicas for some reason has been set to 0, right? We can fix this instantaneously now that we know the problem. But it's like, otherwise you're just scratching around trying to work it out from no information. So
Oh,
yeah, I don't get that.
if your process breaks because you're using AI to make changes too frequently, your process was crap. And saying you don't need a process is the wrong direction. Okay. You got along, you were okay having a sloppy process because you didn't change your software that often. But it's not going to cut it. You got to have a better process. And if you can do that and you can have better controls and stuff, you can actually do a lot more frequent changes and have it be way more scalable. There's just the idea that you don't need that control. It's the exact opposite direction that the industry is going. Everybody's realized suddenly, oh, having these controls is super important. So even though we all want to just throw Claude code on our desktop and let it run free, there's some really cool lessons and productivity increases to be gained from that. But the security has to come along for the ride. We just can't live without it.
Yeah, I can make my car go a little faster.
The whole world.
Yeah, I think I can make my car go faster if I remove the seat belts. Right,
right. It'll be lighter.
It'll go faster. Yeah.
But the cost of a crash is bigger. But of course, I was alluding to Claude accidentally getting all their source code leaked this last week, and now they're doing DMCA takedowns. Apparently, on anybody with a Claude in their Git repo, which is this blast radius, they're hitting way too many false positives, and they're blowing away anybody contributing to their open source projects. Whoops!
I have in my hand a piece of paper. No, this is the settlement that I get for them taking my whole book and just using it without my permission. Right? That's what I get. A little bit of paper, and it's like, oh, we'll give you some money to say sorry, but we're just going to use it anyway. Bad luck.
Wait, so AI models used your book without permission.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay you a few dollars? What are you getting?
Yeah, not much, because obviously most of it goes to the publisher, and like I might get $150 or something at the end of it. Who knows? But like, this is like a whole class action suit for authors of all of these books that were stolen. And then they turn around and go, no, you can't use our stuff. It's copyrighted. You have to take that down. I just think that's like, which is it? Like, what's going on here?
What's interesting is there's a whole other aspect of this, which we've gotten totally onto the AI thing, but I did want to mention here briefly, or ask you, Dan, is this a challenge that you guys are facing? Because we're a contributor, obviously, to the Argo project.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the list of pull requests in here. Is this, you mentioned earlier, this is something that you guys are dealing with right now? Are you guys seeing a lot of this sort of AI generated stuff?
Yeah, the place that it's been the most difficult is in security reports, which of course don't show up publicly, because we get a lot of security reports that are basically like, hey, if somebody can get access to repo server, they can do bad things. And it's like,
You guys have a label here for like AI generated won't fix or something like that?
No, I mean, because some of the fixes or things that are people contributing from an AI perspective are good. It's just that you get a lot of people kind of from a security perspective, people have automated the process of going in and opening up security reports in an automated fashion, because if those are accepted and we merge a fix for that security report, we pay out a bug bounty for that. So we pay you for it. So there's a financial incentive for you to go and open those. So those are the ones that we get the spammiest stuff on. And they're like, I'm trying to even think of one. It's like, if you make a user an admin, and you log them in, and then you revoke their admin access, it doesn't automatically log them out in the time frame. Therefore, we think this is a critical security vulnerability. And it's like, is it though? Is it? Is that what a critical security vulnerability is? That I had to already be given admin access, and I wasn't immediately logged out once you just change the status of the ad. What is your expectation from a security standpoint that when you change the access level for somebody that they would get automatically logged out? Like, that's just, maybe we should put a note in the documentation that says, hey, by the way, if you run into this crazy scenario, but this is not a critical security vulnerability. I'm sorry, you're not going to get paid $500 for this. And we're getting a ton of those, and they all take time to review. Yes. And you don't want to just throw an agent at it necessarily, because what if they open up a security report that's doing prompt injection, and it's trying to take over your agent, and I have to think about the security model of this thing and how it's going to exploit access. On just the regular contributions, we do get pull requests where we've had a couple of them that come to mind that were quite large pull requests, and we spent a fair bit of time reviewing, but the person who opened the pull request wasn't in a position to understand the feedback they were getting. And so they could dump that into an AI agent and try to see if it'll come up with something better, but it'll open up sometimes new issues. And you've all seen this. I mean, we've all had experience with agents where we put it to a task and it kind of solves that task, but it breaks 4 other things. And you have to know enough to chase that stuff down. So there are a couple of approaches being taken to this. There is a project that was created by, what's his name? I want to say he was the guy who created Terraform or something. But basically, it's a way that you can vouch for another open source contributor, and you vouch for them. And when you vouch for them, what you're saying is, hey, if they open up a PR, I can tell you they know enough about what they're doing that they're only going to open good PRs. And that way you can prioritize their contributions. I am pretty much diametrically opposed to such an idea, because the whole point and value of open source is that like anybody can contribute, and I don't have to care about your special background or your certificates or whatever. And it feels like this is just the kind of thing that gets gamed. Oh, it's Ghosty, the guy that created Ghosty.
Yeah, it's Mitch. He was one of the co-founders for HashiCorp. He's
done
a lot of work
and Terraform. Yeah, brilliant guy. And as much as I'm kind of saying why I don't like the approach of doing vouch, some people are saying, hey, we just need to throw agents at the problem and have them do all the reviews. And of course, we did see security issues where a whole bunch of repositories were compromised because of prompt injection, where they would open up an issue that would do prompt injection and get access to the agent and then spill secrets or whatever. So I don't think we're there yet.
All right.
There's also the kind of the third approach is just to introduce a policy that just says, hey, when you add an AI, just state how you used AI and what it did, and just label it as such, just so that we have that expectation, and just be aware that we're maybe going to prioritize it a little bit lower if we don't think that this is, that you're not bringing the level of expertise to it, and just self-label it. I don't think we're there yet. This is going to be a problem for a while, and I don't see any of these fixes alleviating our lives dramatically in the short term.
Yeah, we don't have a good solution to this. This harks back actually to a lot of the socio-technical psychology that was being done in the early days of the web, when we were first building these online communities and trying to study, like, how do you maintain this cool thing once it starts to grow beyond a manageable level? Because there were all of these great communities that would become very popular, and then the people who built that community would kind of feel that it had fallen apart and would be
burn out.
Yeah, they didn't have a mechanism to protect what they had built. And the newcomers weren't particularly motivated to keep it as it was. So this has been a problem for like 3-4 decades, and we're probably not going to easily solve it now.
Mm-hmm.
Just bring us back to some of the things that we, folks may have seen at KubeCon, because that is obviously, we've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole with the AI stuff. There's a bunch of summary blog posts that are worth checking out. So this is one from Efficiently Connected, where they talk about some of the wrap-ups there around sovereignty, security, and the shift from AI experimentation to production reality. There's a lot of talk around platform engineering as part of this blog post, which I thought was kind of cool. The folks over at VSHN also had a blog post that talks about some of the summary highlights that they saw at KubeCon as well. Lots of photos there worth checking out, talking about AI, talking about K8 up, strong interest and a call for maintainers. I don't know if you guys were able to chat with these. They talk about Arno. Like a lot of these projects, I haven't been able to keep up on everything that's going on here, but it's just crazy. So if you want to check out these things, you can certainly do so. I know that even Forrester got into the summary action as well. They did a best of KubeCon post as well, which you can check out up on their blog as well if you're wanting to take a look at all the things that they saw as part of KubeCon Europe and some of the things that were captivating their interest. So lots of really good summaries there. Was platform
sovereignty was
something
coming up a lot actually in discussions
that?
because we were in Europe. The issue
Yes.
of sovereignty was coming up a lot.
Oh, right.
At KubeCon. So just
Yep.
like people were kind of, there's definitely appetite for people to get the data more locally and where they feel that it's going to not be abused. But I think there was a bit of frustration of the lack of a provider that could do it. There's like OVH and there's Hertzner, but they didn't feel that they were giving them the options they needed. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion for a while, I think.
Very good. There was also some side projects. We actually did a presentation. Kyle Young did a presentation as part of OpenTelemetry, which is a format that we support. This is a summary of the talks that were delivered there, and you can check out Kyle's talk as part of that. Lots of stuff worth checking out, and we've, of course, documented all of this. Just to wrap up, folks, if you want to check out all these and more, you can obviously check out the YouTube channel, which has got all the, I'm still playing the ad here. You can check out the YouTube channel for the CNCF. They've got all the videos listed there. You can check out the recordings of all the sessions there. ArgoCon obviously was one that was near and dear to our hearts, but all the other cons, as I like to say, all the presentations that were part of them, it's always a mountain of video that hits the YouTube channel here. I don't know if we'll maybe watch them pay for YouTube Premium, watch them at 3 times speed. I don't know what to tell you. Summarize them with an AI. I don't know how to get through all this list. It's overwhelming, really. But lots
it was 900 sessions, wasn't it, in total?
Yeah, it's just crazy. And I blame organizers like Dan for making too much content available. So, anyways.
Well, it's going to be a problem that continues and grows because we're going to be firing up next ArgoCon Japan coming end of July. First time that we're going to do an ArgoCon in Asia. So that'll be really cool. And we're currently looking for speakers. So hopefully we'll see you there. We've got PlatformCon in New York that we're doing. I was going to say, like, I know oil prices are high and we're worried about flights. I guess Australia is not going to be flying anywhere after 24 days unless something happens.
We'll see.
But I was going to say, like, hey, we're through the bulk of conference season, but there's so much coming up between the platform days, ArgoCon Japan. It's going to be a busy season. We got lots going on.
Awesome stuff. Any last thoughts or things that you guys want to cite before we wrap things up here?
Go and check out Costas's talk on secrets. That was amazing. That's the one that I'll call out. Out of those 900 videos, go get that one.
Yeah, and you know what? Don't forget to come to Argo Unpacked and subscribe to that channel if you're interested in the Argo discussion.
Tell us a little bit about that, Dan. Tell us a little bit about Argo Unpacked.
Yeah, so Argo Unpacked is a podcast that Rivital and I put on, and every week we share some hot tip about Argo CD and how to implement it. We usually will cover some of the latest news of what's in new releases, things to be aware of in the project, and then we'll usually have a guest on to go through a specific use case. We'll tackle community questions. We actually pull up from Reddit some of the discussions, and we take live questions, and we will do live kind of debugging on your Argo instance. If you come up and you tell us, hey, we're having this issue, we love to hear those. We love to get those questions and tackle those. So if you have one you want us to tackle live, let us know. If you have a topic you want us to cover, otherwise, we've got a lot of cool shows coming up. And if you like the energy of me ranting about something, definitely the show for you.
Yeah, and as Dan was rightly pointing, as Dan was also rightly pointing out, we've got a bunch of events coming up. You can find these at /events, so make sure to check that out. Anyways, that wraps it up for today's webinar featuring what we saw at KubeCon in Amsterdam for KubeCon Europe. It was a great event, over 13,000 attendees, 10% growth from last year. I'm assuming it will be even bigger for maybe next year. I'm really looking forward to Japan. We'll be there, so check us out at the booth there. We'll be in the traditional sort of Octopus blue, as we always are. But yeah, on behalf of Dan and Steve and myself, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you at the next KubeCon. And if not, we'll catch you online. Until next time, happy deployments, everyone. Take care.